Hey everyone, some of you might be thinking that video title can't possibly be true. After all, surely if two people pick the same character, one of them can't have an advantage over the other one. I mean, if we play rock, paper, scissors, and we both throw rock, my rock can't out-rock your rock, right? And God, how I wish that were true. But this is Smash Brothers, and things can never be that simple. For example, you might have heard of port priority, or the way that older Smash games straight up gave an advantage to a certain player slot. And while that actually does sorta still exist in Ultimate, because of course it does, today I'd like to talk about a different way for rock to beat rock that is arguably even more cursed. So fair warning, what I am about to share with you is one of the weirdest pieces of Smash knowledge that I have, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Like the fact that the FDA allows 450 insect parts per box of spaghetti, this knowledge will haunt you forever. So steel your nerves, and without further ado, here is why left cloud just might beat right cloud. Now, as you're probably aware, this is a hitbox. It is a box where your move hits people. For most moves, this is very straightforward, and on websites like Ultimate Frame Data, you can see a list of these hitboxes for whatever character you want. And if you look closely, you'll see that every single one of these images has the characters facing right. The reason we can do this is that hitboxes are, of course, always the same no matter which direction you're facing. When a character turns around, the game flips their hitboxes too, so they can attack the same places just on the other side. And this is easy to see when you make two of the same character use the same move at the same time. No matter which attack you pick, the outcome should look exactly the same for both characters. And most of the time this is the case, because we're both throwing rock here, and that's just common sense. But what if I told you that there is a character whose hair is too spiky for common sense to apply? That's right, Cloud Strife is here to make things far more complicated than they have to be. You see, in his side B, cross slash, Cloud does actual calligraphy while slicing people, in the JRPG equivalent of drawing a Mogus with bullet holes. The kanji he draws is Kyo, which the internet tells me means bad luck. But because that character has an actual meaning outside the context of hitboxes, if you try to put it into a fighting game, you run into a very strange problem. You see, most attack visuals are the same thing when flipped, so everything works fine. Nobody cares whether an explosion is a left explosion or a right explosion. It's pretty obvious that something's exploding either way. But written text is different, because it totally changes when you reverse it. I mean, flip around dude and it becomes boob, and don't even think of flipping that thing vertically. So, when the developers were adding cross slash to Smash, something had to give. And if you're thinking, well, just make it symmetrical, that's not an option. Not only is the kanji itself asymmetrical, but there's a specific stroke order you're supposed to follow that would get totally messed up on one side. It would look janky, and they couldn't have things looking janky like that. Maybe if it was on, Morton or something, nobody would care, but keep in mind, we're talking about Cloud, who was a DLC character that you had to pay $5.99 for. Everything had to be perfect for optimal Nintendo money printing. So, how did the dev team do it? How did they tackle this difficult issue? Well, normally I'd have to speculate about this sort of thing and give you my best subjective guess, but this time I am proud to say I can offer you an answer straight from the horse's mouth. You see, the WhyDo Intensive Research Team, also known as Neon Ritalin, has uncovered Sakurai himself discussing this problem in a Nintendo Dream interview from February 2016. Many thanks to Source Gaming for the translation. In the words of Sakurai, "It might be the first move in Smash to be completely different depending on whether Cloud is facing right or left. The hitboxes are completely different." Laughs. Look, you can disagree with Sakurai on some things, but love him or hate him, this man is having a good time. So yeah, back in 2015, they decided to just roll with it, and to this day, Cloud Side B has different hitboxes depending on the side he's facing. So here's Cloud doing it to the right, and if we just flip that image, we'd expect the hitbox to look like this. But in the actual game, it looks like this, which, yes, actually does have a noticeable impact on gameplay. Why is that? Well, as you can see, this here is left Cloud, also known as right-facing Cloud, because remember, when the match starts, left Cloud he's facing right towards right Cloud who is facing left. Hope that clears things up. But yeah, if we look at the hitbox, we can see that left Cloud's side B hits close to him on the ground, but far away in the air. But if we look at right Cloud, we can see that it's the opposite, meaning it hits farther away on the ground, but closer in the air. And just to make sure I'm not losing my mind, let's test this out. If we have both of these characters side B simultaneously at the same height, can we make one of them win? Can we make rock beat rock? The answer is truly a sight to behold. Yes, what you just saw is two characters doing the same exact move, but one of them comes out on top. And folks, I haven't seen that since TikTok. And again, this is not related to port priority or any other game engine jank like that. If these two clouds swap places, the same exact thing happens. It is only a question of facing left or facing right. And that is why, no matter how absurd it sounds, we are finally equipped to ask the forbidden question of who is better? Left cloud or right cloud? Now, I personally think the answer to that question depends on the matchup. For characters that are very small, like Kirby or Game & Watch spamming crouch, you kinda just have a straight up better neutral when you're on the right side of them. That's because cross slash is one of your only tools to deal with crouching. As you might know, in Ultimate, when you're holding crouch, you take less knockback. This is called crouch canceling, and while it's not as big of a war crime as it is in Melee, it really does matter, especially for characters who also turn into tiny, evil little pancakes when they hold down. Well, not only does Cloud Side B hit very low opponents, but it's also a multi-hit, which means it pulls them straight out of crouch and does full knockback, which is huge. In a game full of pancakes, this move is the spatula. But of course, that spatula was simply not built symmetrically. It's like a fish spatula, which is, actually that's the best kind of spatula. This is not a joke, I just think everybody should own a fish spatula. It's a very useful and multi-purpose cooking tool. It's great for flipping delicate foods, but the sharp edge can also cut them if you want. But back to Cloud, if we go to training mode and test side B against small opponents, it turns out that flipping Kirby's is a whole lot easier on right Cloud. Like, just look at this, the grounded range difference is noticeable because of where the hitboxes are placed. And in a game where every interaction matters, it really makes you wonder how many stocks or even tournament matches against these characters would have been completely different. If only the Cloud player had been using right Cloud. But don't give up hope just yet, left Cloud enjoyers, because if you saw the title of this video, you know that our favorite right-facing soldier is no slouch either. You see, the taller your enemy gets, the less the grounded range advantage of right Cloud matters. Think about Palutena. She is tall enough to get hit by the farthest part of left Cloud's side B, so against her that far-reaching low hit simply doesn't matter as much. And yes, this is where left Cloud gets to shine, because his side special is way better as an anti-air. This move hits that tricky upwards diagonal area in ways that, quite frankly, right Cloud couldn't even dream of. Like, look at this, look at how left Cloud is able to hit this jumping Mithra from a range that simply does not work if we flip the situation around. Which brings me back to the Cloud-Cloud matchup. Assuming equal skill, what happens when we put these two different Clouds in the ring and have them fight for supremacy? Well, as someone who has played countless Cloud dittos across the past two Smash titles, I am here to pass on the essence of my accumulated years of knowledge to you. Here it is. Cloud is tall, and he jumps a lot, so left Cloud wins. Please subscribe for more insightful analysis. No, but actually though, if you think about it, having two Clouds on screen makes this weird gameplay quirk matter twice as much. It's like how if you go to a Smash tournament and there's one person who hasn't showered, you might not notice it, but when there are multiple people who haven't showered in the same room, the gamer stench sorta compounds upon itself and gives rise to something more horrifying than you ever could have imagined. And just like that, if you keep what I'm saying in mind when you play the Cloud Ditto, you will start to notice some anomalies. You will watch in abject horror as right Cloud misses anti-airs in places left Cloud would have easily hit. And call me delusional, but ever since I started working on this video, I kinda feel like I'm seeing it everywhere now. Every time I narrowly dodge a cross slash from right Cloud, I can't help but think to myself, would left Cloud have hit me there? And folks, at the risk of sounding dramatic, this is the kind of shit that keeps me up at night. Well, this and nuclear war, those are like the two things. And now I know what you're thinking. WhyDo, this entire time you've only been talking about the yellow french fry attack. What about the blue french fry attack? And yes, as you are likely aware, Cloud has the ability to turn blue and make all of his moves into their cheater versions. Cheater! And I am happy to report that Limit Cross Slash has all the same left-right weirdness we've come to know and love. But thankfully, I do think it's a bit less crazy, just because the entire animation always plays out. And I tested it, and thankfully that giant last hit is the same on both sides. Which is what I would say if Smash Ultimate were a real game, but unfortunately, it's actually an elaborate social experiment designed to study how nostalgia makes people put up with nonsense. So, this is the last hit of Limit Cross Slash, and it looks symmetrical, right? I mean, it's a snowman! You can flip a snowman around, but no. You see, that big final hit has more range on left cloud for no reason, which, yes, makes it safer on shield. There are still ways to deal with it on either side, but left cloud's version is kind of just better, which is surprising. In fact, I haven't been this surprised since I learned how much mold the FDA allows in jam. Like, what the hell do you mean by 75% average mold count? That's not even jam anymore. That's just mold. So yeah, yet another reason why Cloud beats himself. And as you'd expect, if you make left cloud and right cloud use the blue move at the same time, there are plenty of positions where one of them beats the other, which, in my extremely scientific opinion, looks kinda badass. But, you know, after all this, we do sorta have to ask ourselves, how much does it really matter? And how are we supposed to handle left and right cloud in tournaments? And I would say 99% of the time, this gameplay quirk isn't going to influence the outcome of a match. Cloud is a relatively simple character that rewards reads and good positioning, and especially when two Cloud players are fighting, the person who played better usually ends up winning, despite what the person who played worse usually ends up saying. And of course, a little bit of hitbox weirdness isn't going to change that fundamental truth. But then, you gotta wonder, like, okay, it doesn't matter 99% of the time, but what happens when you play 100 matches as Cloud? How about 1,000? The more you zoom out, the more that even tiny advantages can stack up. Like if you were to sit down and scam just one person every day, then after a year, you might have a beautiful Ponzi scheme going. But here's the thing, the one simple thing that saves us from so much suffering. And it's the fact that in Ultimate, no matter which slot you pick on the character selection screen, the side you spawn on is completely random. You can't just decide to play as left Cloud or right Cloud from the start of the match. No matter what you do, it's up to random chance. Which I think is pretty good, actually, because when you watch pro Cloud play, especially in more defensive matchups, it's not uncommon to see Cloud stay on the same side he spawned on for 10 or even 20 seconds. And that's definitely long enough for the version of Cloud you spawned as to affect the game. So imagine the truly blessed timeline where spawns aren't randomized, and the only logical solution is for Cloud mains to play rock paper scissors for the right to use left Cloud. But sadly, in our timeline, the game does it for you, so we can't have any fun. But wait, if you think about it, this also means that if a Cloud player notices they're spawning on their less favored side, it would technically be in their best interest to force a reroll somehow. For example, let's say you're fighting a Game & Watch player, so you really want to start off as right Cloud to hit his crouches better. But as the game starts, you notice you're spawning in on the left side. Well, in theory, your options here are only really limited by whether or not you are a manipulative psychopath. Now, I'm not saying you should shout, "Holy shit, it's Mr. Beast," and then quit to the home menu while your opponent's head is turned, but I am saying that it sorta would give you another 50-50 shot at right Cloud, wouldn't it? You know, just theoretically speaking. Alright, fine, I think we've probably taken this far enough. So rather than descend further into asymmetrical madness, I really do want to stress that left Cloud and right Cloud honestly aren't that different from each other. Playing left Cloud will not magically make you better at Smash, and truly, a skilled right Cloud can beat any left Cloud. But still, while the gameplay difference between these two Clouds might not be that dramatic, it really is just significant enough to bother me, like a single small mosquito buzzing just outside of my reach. But no longer. You see, thanks to you, that mosquito is now buzzing outside of both of our reaches. So there you go. That's why left Cloud beats right Cloud. From the bottom of my heart, I hope that you never know peace while watching a Cloud Ditto ever again. Please subscribe. And of course, be sure to leave a comment about your favorite Cloud, or at least which one you think is strongest. I am personally a member of the superior left Cloud Legion. Right Cloud rubes, there's the door. So as always, stay safe, thanks for watching, and may all your hitboxes remain symmetrical.